Okay, so in the last video I fairly quickly went through the hole which we're going to be positioning and having in our bulb fitting piece. What we actually need to be clear upon is the sizes and everything like that, and this is a kind of detail which is relevant when you come to use SolidWorks, if you do in the future, for any other kind of holes which you're looking to create. So obviously we positioned it before. Just to reiterate, it must just be the hole, which is the top right hand icon here. We want to make sure this is definitely INSI metric, and that's to do with the size of measurements, the size and measurements of various fittings which you can use. In a nutshell, SolidWorks has all the sizes and dimensions of all kinds of nuts and bolts and fittings and screws, so you can actually be really precise. But for our sake we are using ANSI metric. Next one, it's a dowel hole. We just want a straightforward hole all the way through the two layers which we have got going on. As you can see, it is previewing it for us. Next thing, the size needs to be 6mm. That's important because the screws are going to be just the right kind of tightness through the holes there without being too loose. It just gives it a really nice secure fit. And lastly, as you can see down at the bottom here, it says through all. If you choose those options, it will, depending upon what you choose, only go through one. It'll only go to a certain depth, all those kind of things. But we want it to go all the way through, so we can fit a screw and a nut on to tighten it and fasten it together. And then if you press tick, wham, it's done it. So ultimately that is your fitting which you're going to be using, and you can just go away and use it as it is, no problems. What it is quite nice to do though is to just give it some nice rounded edges so it's not quite so harsh, because when you print it out, these little corners here, there, up in the corner at the back here and such, they can actually be quite sharp because the PLA does set really firmly and hard. So what we can do is create what's called a fillet, which again is up in the features tab, and it is this icon just here. Essentially what we want to do firstly, I would recommend you change that to 2, and that's to do with the amount of material which is taken away, so that's 2mm. Also check that it says full preview, because you'll actually see what you're doing as you do it. And at this stage what we're doing is we are highlighting the edges which we want to round off, basically make less sharp. So for example, if I swivel this around to the back, what I can do is highlight this edge here, and you can see it begins to preview what it is I'm asking it to do. So I can then do that on this same outside edge but on the other side, click, and it will again preview what it is I'm asking it to do. And so if you just begin to work your way around the project, and this is where it pays to hold the roller button in the middle down and move your project around, you can see all the edges which you want to work on. It may be that you actually don't want to, it may be that you think it looks really nice. I personally think it softens it and it does make it less sharp. And just go around your project, all these edges. So I'm just going to fly through as quickly as I can, because ultimately I am doing nothing more than repeating this. As you can see, I'm doing outside edges there. It will also quite nicely do inside edges, so it's actually going to round off the join in between the box section and the cylinder. It's already beginning to do these edges for me, which is great. So I'm going to come around over here and do the same on the other side, and again it's already previewing it, having done it for me along the top here. I'm going to zoom in just a touch so I can be absolutely sure I'm getting the right bits, and just be careful, as you can see as I'm moving the mouse around, it does begin highlighting everything. I would recommend you don't do the edges which are going to be kind of inward facing and be up against the fittings, because the fittings have straight edges, smooth straight edges. We want to make sure they fit really snugly in, and with curved edges you're losing less kind of contact and so friction and tightness. So let's go for that one. I'm going to do this tiny little front edge there, if I can get to it. I should have done it first. There we go. And again. And again. Lots and lots of yellow appearing everywhere now. It does pay just to make sure you're zooming in and you're happy you know what you're getting and asking it to do. That's good. I haven't done the long edge here. Good. That bottom one is done, and I would say at this point, oh no, let's just get that bottom edge here. Good. Good. Done. So that is the full preview. Obviously, if you were to change the 2mm measurement to something bigger, it would take away more. It would take away more material, and it doesn't look quite as delicate. I think it pays to just take a little slither off, and it still looks really, really slick. So once you've done that, press tick, and it will do it all for you, and that is your fitting. If at any point you have done something to your piece which you're not happy about, or you realise something's not working out, you've got an incorrect measurement as you're going around, what you can do is check out this here. What you've got here is like essentially a history tree. It tells you everything you've done in the order that you've done it. So if I click on these little arrows here, it will fall out and it will show you everything you did at the very beginning. So if I highlight sketch, it is showing me that initial drawing we did at the very beginning. If I highlight the boss extrude, it's showing me what I did from that drawing there. So if you do find that you've got incorrect measurements, you've realised that, for example, you've got the wrong length here and it's quite short, what you can always do, provided you're not in Smart Dimension or Sketch or doing another feature, is come back to this, choose the stage at which you realise something's gone wrong, and right click, and then you can go back to it and edit it again. And if you just highlight the measurements, you'll be able to change it as you need, and that's really, really useful, especially when you come to year 11. It may be that you are going to be using SolidWorks and 3D printing, because you can print prototypes. You can print it out, see if it works out, and if it doesn't, you can work out what you need to change, the measurements that need changing, come back to your initial drawing and change it, and that is still relevant with what we've done here. If you do, as I say, forget to extend this section out, you can come back and make sure you make it 34. If you get to extruding it all out and you realise the circle, the cylindrical section is far too small, you can come back and change it here as well. So that's really, really nice feature, and that covers everything from the sketches to the cutting inwards, which we did to create the section for the wood to fit into, and also everything from the positioning of the holes to the filleting. Great point of reference if you do have any problems. So that is it. That is now ready to print off. Very, very quickly, you need to save it. So if you go to File and Save As, if you save it in the 11JB folder and just save it as whatever your name is, so the Mr. Walker lamp fitting, just make sure you got your name there, then we will know everybody who has or hasn't got one, and then we can open them up, check them and print them. But that is it. That is your fitting. If you have any problems along the way with any of these stages, I'm always around. Please do feel free to grab me and I can talk you through it, as well as Miss Blackman or Miss Keeling if she happens to be around as well. Okay, that is that.